Okay, so for this talk, I want to talk about yung trends ng technopreneurship, or basically ano ba ang ginagawa ng mga technopreneurs sa Pilipinas. So maybe focus naman tayo dyan sa Pilipinas. Ano ba yung parang um, maybe advancements, or paano ba actually nagagawa ang technopreneurship sa Pilipinas? So when James was the one to approach me. He asked me to give a talk in in TIP about technopreneurship. Actually, I've been part of some technopreneurship classes in UP Diliman, and I I I think isa sa mga goals ko rin sa talk na to is to ground us kung ano ba talaga yung nangyayari sa technopreneurship field sa Pilipinas. Kasi I mean, hindi naman lahat ng technology ay naa-apply agad into real life. So maybe focus tayo dun sa mga naa-apply talaga in real life. So I want to show in this talk ano ba yung in practice talaga. So since I'm also part of that industry in the Philippines. So when James approached me, he asked me to talk about some trends in technopreneurship, how it contributes to society, and ano ba yung mga possible career opportunities in the Philippines. So agad-agad naisip ko itong word na to, na actually what I'm doing right now. So familiar ba kayo dito? Familiar ba kayo sa drama na to? Yeah, so startup, no? So sa mga napanood na dyan, so ano kayo, team good boy ba kayo, or team team Dosan, team Lola, team Grandma, team exactly, ayan. So magkakaroon din 'di ba ng GMA version. So panoorin natin yung GMA version. I'm not sure if I mean, I hope maganda yung GMA version. So let's see. So anyway, what I want to talk about today, no, is startups, especially technology startups or tech startups, kasi yun din yung isa sa mga trends sa Philippines. And actually, in our class in UP Diliman, yung mga nagte-take ng technopreneurship class, most of them become startup founders, or at least go into that path. So before we go, no, to discussing about startups, especially in the Philippines, introduce ko rin muna, and I think na announce ng ating mga hosts, ng ating mga MC. So I'm actually the lead creator and host of Startup Podcast Philippines. It's the #1 Filipino entrepreneurship podcast now. And currently we're at episode 41. So naka-interview na kami ng 41 startups in the Philippines. And we're actually partnered with Idea Space Philippines, Kubo Innovation Hub, and Field Dev Foundation, which I can say are like the largest startup ecosystem builder sa Pilipinas. So actually, ang goal ng Startup Podcast PH is to interview, or to know the stories, to know the technologies, to know the innovations, and especially to know the perspectives of startup founders all over the country, from Luzon to Visayas to Mindanao to the islands to the urban cities. So we want to know ano ba yung nangyayari talaga sa startup ecosystem in the whole world. So plug ko lang muna na before we start. So we're actually on YouTube. And so we have some series. We have series where weekly we interview startup founders, and we also interview startup incubators. Later, let's know more about that. And we're also on Spotify. So before we start, advertisements muna tayo. So if you're interested in the world of startups, so maybe you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or to follow on Spotify, or to like us on our Facebook page. So that's just facebook.com or youtube.com/startuppodcastph. So ako yung host doon, so boses niyo maririnig ko lagi. Ayan, so punta na tayo sa main content ng ating talk today. So I've mentioned the word startup, and actually I know many of you know the word startup. In fact, nakanood na nga kayo nung K-drama na startup. Pero ano nga ba ang startup? To be honest, maraming misconceptions about this word, and that's also one of the goals in this talk. I want to clear those misconceptions. I want to let you know properly, or I mean at least on what I know, kasi maraming iba't ibang definitions talaga ng startups eh. Pero at least I want to clarify ano ba talaga ang startups. So kayo, ano ba ang idea niyo about startups? Pwede kayo mag-type sa chat. So gawin natin tong interactive session. Anong unang words na naiisip nyo when you hear the word startup? Products. Okay, good. Magsimula po ulit. Initial. Okay. from scratch, okay? Capital, okay? Good, good, good. Yeah, so is tech-based businesses? Good. So yung startups about getting investors. Yan yung napapanood natin. Actually, yun yung nakikita natin sa mga balita, di ba? This startup raised $3 million or $20 million. So is it about getting investors? Is it about getting capital? Is it about the innovation, as you said nga? Is it about the technology? Is it only about the technology? Is it about the innovation, the new things, the new products? Is it about 24 hours puyatan, programming? Yan yung nakikita natin dun sa drama, sa K-drama. Baka sa GMA adaptation din, no, na 24 hours puyatan, nasa office sila, code ng code ng code. So, yun ba ang startup? Ano ba talaga ang startup? And good thing that you mentioned, no, yung from scratch, yung initial. I have many things to say that, pero I have to say na it's not necessarily initial. It's not necessarily from scratch. So, hindi porket sinabing startups, it's someone that's starting a new business. So I'll go straight to the point and say that startup is actually solving a problem of society. So tugma na tayo dun sa second goal. Dun sa second goal na contributions in society. And when we consider technology startups, we're actually using technology to solve a problem of society. That's it. That's the most daring definition I can say. And it doesn't really encapsulate yung parang starting out or from scratch, kasi pwede rin naman na you already have so many skills, you're already built, pero you're trying to solve a new problem. So as long as you're trying to solve a new problem, and actually as long as you're experimenting with a new business model to solve that problem, that's a startup. So basically, a startup is more of like an experiment. Parang merong problem and you may want to use this technology na maybe newly researched on or nagtatry pa lang yung mga tao to solve that problem. So that's basically what a tech startup is, using technology to solve a problem of society. So maybe as future technopreneurs, baka maging interesado kayo mag-start ng inyong sariling startup. Are you interested ba in starting your own startup? And maybe I think the best way to tell what a startup really is to tell about the typical startup model. And on this discussion, magbibigay ako ng ilang examples ng mga startups sa Pilipinas, and I hope in this way mas magets natin kung ano ba talaga ang trends, ano ba yung ginagawa ng mga startups sa Pilipinas. So actually, pinili ko yung mga startups na nag-a-apply ng AI to solve a specific problem. So I hope this is somehow interesting for you. So a typical startup model for any founder or for any technopreneur, you should always start with a domain. With maybe I'll say the model muna, no. So we'll start with the domain, and then in that domain merong problem, and for that problem you will apply a solution, and you as a founder, you're the one who applies the solution, and then pwede kang magdagdag ng mga features to fully solve that problem. And then this is one of the most important, yung pag-develop ng business model to really solve that problem. And then finally, declaration ng vision, declaration natin ng ano ba yung gusto natin mangyari in the future. So meron akong drawing dito kung ano ba talaga yung startup model, yung typical startup model, para mas magets natin ano ba talaga yung ginagawa ng mga startup founders. So we start with the domain, we start with the field of interest. So it can be like ano ba yung background ninyo, ano ba yung hobby ninyo, or ano ba yung ginagawa niyo talaga before anything else. Para ano ba talaga yung affinity ninyo? Nasaan ba talaga kayo? So some startup trends or some technopreneurship trends, like they solve problems in edutech, education technology, some in health technology, healthcare technology, some in agritech, agricultural technology. So very broad actually, no, ang pwedeng puntahan startup world, or actually even ECEs, even you as ECEs, even you as future technopreneurs, even if you studied ECE, you can also go naman into those fields like edutech nga, health tech, agri-tech. So, but before that, you should first be interested on what you're doing. So, maganda kung meron kayong enough background doon sa field na gusto nyong solvean ng problem. And then next, dun sa field of interest na yun, merong problem. So may butas dyan. So merong gap from the real to the ideal. Baliktad pala yung nasa slide. Gap from the real to the ideal. Meron kang gusto mangyari, pero hindi yun nangyayari dahil dun sa butas. Dahil dun sa butas na ito. Okay? So ang gagawin mo as a founder, as a technopreneur, as a startup founder, you will close that gap. You will resolve mo yung problem by closing that gap. So tatakpan mo yung problem, tatakpan mo yung butas, tatakpan mo yung gap para mabuo ulit yung field. And then you as the founder, you should be like the chosen one, or you should be like someone who really has the motivation, the heart, the puso na isolve yung problem na yun. Kasi kung wala kang puso, mahihirapan ka talagang isolve yung problem. Mahihirapan kang itaguyod yung startup na yan kasi it's not so easy to solve a problem. So maganda kung talagang dedicated ka into solving that problem. And then actually, another important thing, and actually this is the reason why most startups now like use AI to solve their problem fully. Kasi when pag mayroong problem, pag mayroong butas dun sa may field of interest, naglagay ka ng solution, yung solution mo, hindi laging swak dun sa problem. So kailangan mo pang i-refine yung solution mo para talagang maging swak dun sa butas. So kaya ka nag-a-add ng features, kaya ka nag-a-add ng technology, kaya ka nag-a-add ng mga kung ano-anong ang tawag dito, additional things dun sa startup, dun sa may product, or tama, very good word, optimization. You optimize your solution para pasok na pasok doon sa problem. And then finally, another important thing in technopreneur, yung preneur side, is the development of the business model. And many people have misconceptions about the business model. It's actually just simply how do you sustain the solution? Kasi meron kang problem, let's say may problem, 'di ba? May butas. Meron kang solution, pero yung solution mo ay napakamahal naman. Hindi kayang bilhin ng tao. Let's say meron kang dinevelop na new technology, pero napakamahal niya. So, it can solve the problem, pero since napakamahal niya, hindi rin siya magagamit, 'di ba? So, as technopreneurs, one of the things that you should also think about is how to make that solution feasible or sustainable para mas magamit talaga ng mga tao. So, ang drawing natin dito is hindi na lang siya parang nakalagay yung solution doon sa butas, kundi talagang naka-match na siya doon sa buong field. So, talagang swak na siya. Kumbaga, kahit in 10 years, in 20 years, mawala ka as a founder, nag-work pa rin yung solution. Okay? I mean, sustainable na siya, sustained na siya by the people who are buying it, by the people who are availing the service, and even na wala yung original founder, wala yung original na nag-develop ng technology, gumagana pa rin siya. Let's say, for example, sa Pilipinas, let's say Grab, for example, or Uber, parang sustained na yung, meron siyang business model nasusustain siya. Although kailangan pa rin syempre ng office, kailangan pa rin syempre ng company na nagmamanage. Pero pag may mga tao na afford naman yung services, na nagbabayad for the service, kusa na siyang nangyayari. So once na-deploy na yung solution and may mga taong nag-a-adapt ng solution and bumibili, nasusustain siya, andun na siya. Bagong introduction na siya doon sa society, doon sa lipunan. So, hindi na natin namamalayan actually na, or hindi na natin ma-imagine yung mundo na wala yung solution na yun somehow. And then finally, we end with the vision. So, with the vision, what do we really want to see in that domain or in that field of interest? So, hindi lang natin isa-solve yung problem para sa isang tao or sa isang maliit na facet ng domain na yun, kundi sa buong domain. So, solve natin talaga for the whole society, for everything in that field. So, ang dami ko sinasabi, no? So, mabuti kung meron tayong a few examples. So, actually, that's the main content of this talk. So, very brief lang din naman itong talk na to. I just really want to clarify kung ano ba ang ginagawa ng startup, kung ano ba ang startups, and kung ano ba ang role talaga ng technopreneurs sa isang startup, and how really are startups contributing for society. So I have 3 examples of Philippine startups. So these are legitimate startups na talagang nasa Pilipinas, na talagang gumagana, na talagang so pwede kayo mag-apply actually. These are our partner startups in Startup Podcast. So if you're interested, baka pwede kayong mag-apply for internship or maybe for work. So let's start with the first example, Edu Suite. So before we start, sa tingin nyo, ano ang ginagawa ng Edu Suite? Just by the name. Ano kaya yung kanyang domain? Ano kaya yung kanyang field of interest? Ano kayang aspect ng society yung sinasolve niya? For academic purposes, for education, actually obvious pala no kasi may edu sa word. Pero yeah, that's right. Edu Suite is actually in the edutech field. Library of information. Wow. Actually, that's a good idea. Anyway, Edu Suite is actually in the edutech field. So as I mentioned these examples, so sana ma-appreciate din natin yung iba't ibang trends na pwedeng puntahan ng, actually, yun nga, ng ECEs, ng technopreneurs, ng startups. So we can actually go to the edutech field or education technology field. So Edu Suite is actually an AI-powered school management system. So pwede nyo i-search yan. So check nyo. And na-interview na rin namin sila sa Startup Podcast. So if you want to know their story and their technology, pwede nyo pakinggan yung episode dun sa YouTube or sa Spotify. Nag-advertise na naman. Anyway, Edu Suite is an AI-powered school management system. So they're in the field of edutech and they're using AI to develop school management systems. Ano ba yung school management systems na yan? So I think one of the things in startups na maybe kaya rin siguro nag-fail yung ibang startups kasi nauuna yung solution. Like for example, may advancement sa AI, may advancement sa 5G, may advancement sa quantum computing. Let's use that to solve a problem. I have to say that's not necessarily correct kasi you should always start with the problem. Kung ano yung kailangan ng problem, yun yung gagamitin natin ng solution. For example, problem, as Engineer Christian has great talk by the way, actually maganda yung talk ni Sir Christian about quantum computing. If ang problem ay speed, if ang problem ay we want to have a faster computational workload for something, for machine learning, for anything, if problem yung speed, quantum computing, since it solves the speed problem, it can be used. But we should always start with the problem. Wag natin unahan yung problem. Hindi porket may technology, isasalpak na siya doon sa problem. Kasi baka hindi naman pala talaga na nasa-solve yung problem. So, in Edu Suite, actually, the problem they're trying to solve is that professors are losing time for advising and enrolling students. I don't know if makarelate kayo sa TIP. I'm not sure with the state of enrollment and pagkuha ng subjects. Kasi diba, for example, I'm not sure also if online na pala yung yung school management system in TIP. But anyway, in some schools, and even before, maybe 10 years ago, yung mga students, pag enrollment day, pipila pa doon sa mga professors. Yung professors magsasabi na, ito yung tinatake mo na subjects, ito yung na-take na subjects, ito yung delayed ka, ganyan. So the professor has to look manually kung ano yung status ng student and siya yung mag-a-advise, siya yung mag-e-enroll, siya yung maglalagay ng subject. And minsan, I'm not sure sa TIP, but sa UP, yung mga students ay pumipila pa. As in, kukuha ng subject sa building na to, sa building na to, sa building na to, etc. etc. Tapos minsan, nagkakaroon ng pila dun sa mga prof na magagaling or I mean, not to say magaling, dun sa mga prof na nagbibigay ng uno ng high grades or something. So, ang laking problem nun kasi nagsasuffer yung mga students tsaka yung mga professors nawawala ng time kaysa nakapagturo agad, napapagod pa sila sa pag-enroll, sa pagbigay ng mga subjects. So what Edu Suite does is to let the computer do the job. So it's automated. And actually, they've said that they've reduced a lot of time. I'm not sure, I think days yung na-reduce nila. Imbis na days of enrollment, like 1 week of enrollment, naging in a few minutes na lang, click na lang. So when they click the button, the computer will automatically optimize. So ito yung mga students, ito yung mga teachers, ito yung schedules ng mga teachers, ito yung mga students, ito yung mga na-take na subjects ng bawat student, i-match na siya automatically doon sa schedules and even daw, sabi nila, doon sa possibly preference or possibly parang yung bagay na teacher, bagay na class doon sa student na yun. So it's automatic matching and automatic optimization nung scheduling. So with that, nakasave sila ng very much time for the school. But we also have to ask the founder kung sino yung nagsimula ng solution na to. He's actually a president of a school. So if you're familiar with CIIT, I think ang TIP-QC no ay hindi naman ganun kalayo actually from this school. This is actually in Kamuning if you're familiar. And anyway, so they now introduced that solution, and now they've added features. They optimized their solution. Pinuno talaga i-close yung gap. Talagang i-close yung gap such that wala nang manual enrollment, or kumbaga hindi na talaga pipila pa any student or anyone who wants to enter the school. So now they also have an automated admission system. Yes po, yung magandang building actually. And then for the business model of Edu Suite, so this is also important. It's actually a subscription based. So the school, depending on the number of students, will pay to buy the product. And then the vision actually of the founder is basically to maximize the learning in schools in two ways. Yung mga students makapag-aral na kagad, yung mga teachers makapagturo na kagad. Nawala na yung parang time for administration or yung parang the rigorous process of enrollment. Kasi when you think about it, ano nga bang value ng pagpila? Ano nga bang value sa atin ng paghintay or ng even yung kumbaga nag-take up pa ng time before natin makuha yung subjects na gusto talaga natin. So, yeah, so that's my first example, no, Edu Suite. They use AI actually to optimize school management, reducing a lot of time for the teachers and even for the students. So my next example is Hive. So are you familiar with this? And sa tingin nyo, anong field of interest ng Hive? I think medyo obvious naman sa logo nila, I think. Medical. actually, yes, medical. So they're actually in the media. Good actually. Very good, very good. Pwede rin. Media, Hive. But anyway, they're in the medical industry, actually healthcare industry. Actually, this is one of the most popular startups now in the Philippines. Yeah, they've recently got a lot of investors, and they're actually working for Philippine small and medium hospitals. So ang kanilang field of interest, ang kanilang domain naman ay they're an intelligent medical market space. So they're serving hospitals. So they're on the healthcare industry, health technology industry. So ayan, so as ECEs, as technopreneurs, as future startup founders maybe, we can also go into this field, health technology. And they actually also use AI or intelligent systems to solve this problem. So actually medyo similar din to dun sa kanina. Ano ba yung problem ng hospitals? Doctors don't have time to buy medical supplies. Pinaka-basic face masks or even yung mga rapid tests, yung mga swab tests for COVID or for example, even yung mga gamot or mga medical equipment. When the doctor, let's say mayroong hospital sa, I think ang main users nila is mga nasa province eh. Let's say mayroong hospital, small hospital sa isang province. Usually undermanned yung mga hospital na yun eh. Kulang sa tao. Kaya yung doctor na dapat maggamot ng mga tao, sila din pa yung bumibili ng mga supplies. Minsan nagdadrive pa daw sila to Bambang, to Manila to buy those supplies. So nawawala ng time or napapagod yung doctor na dapat ginagamit pang save ng lives, right? Pang heal ng mga tao, pang gamot ng mga tao. So napakalaking kawalan nun sa Pilipinas, napakalaking kawalan nun sa lipunan. So what Hive's solution was to do it online, to make a platform to do it online with intelligent buying. So they have a process of automation and actually intelligent buying. Kumbaga, in that platform, it's like a marketplace, ano. So the hospitals can go to that platform, ililink sila sa mga suppliers ng mga medical equipment, medical medicines, medical items. And the intelligent part is that pag pumunta doon yung doctor or yung hospital, i-match din siya doon sa, let's say, pinakamura or yung pinakamalapit sa kanya, yung pinaka-accessible or yung pinaka-kailangan talaga nila. So, meron din siyang, ginagamitan din siya ng AI or ng intelligent systems to to reduce pa talaga yung time nung pagbili ng doctor ng medical supplies. So I really think it's a great I think it's a great innovation. It's a great solution in the Philippines. So if you want to know more about MedHive, search na yan. So na-interview na rin namin sila sa podcast. So if you want to hear their story, it's actually one of the good stories in the Philippines, startup stories in the Philippines. And by the way, the founders of MedHive, they still haven't graduated college. So the founders actually is from a family that owns a small hospital. So talagang nasa puso niya yung pag-solve ng problem ng mga hospital sa Pilipinas. Actually, to be honest, I think they stopped muna college kasi nag-focus talaga sila sa dito sa startup na to. They're not so old actually. They're very young. And they've raised this January, I think they've raised like around 20 million pesos from local and foreign investors. So there's really a lot of hope, a lot of things in the startup world. Anyway, so how to fully close that gap? Yeah, they have that intelligent marketplace, automated canvassing of suppliers, and their business model is in the marketplace, pag bibili yung mga doctors, they take a small portion of it. Pero yung small portion na yun, since maraming doctors na gumagamit ng platform, lumalaki siya enough to be profitable para i-sustain, i-support yung buong startup, yung buong company. And their vision is just for every hospital in the Philippines to easily be able to buy medical supplies. So, balak nila talaga i-scale to all the Philippines from Luzon to Mindanao. It's one marketplace. And then for our final example, so Cropital, sige, ito naman, Cropital. What do you think is the field of Cropital? I think medyo obvious din to. Agriculture, yes, very easy actually. Agriculture field. Crop, actually it's a portmanteau daw of crop and capital. So, ayan, another field, agritech. So, our ECEs, our technopreneurs, our startup founders, hindi lang edutech, hindi lang health tech, also agritech. It's actually a very interesting field now. Maraming actually startups na nagsusulputan sa agritech field. So, their domain, it's simple lang actually. They allow anyone to grow money or to invest in farmers. But the problem really started with that. They found out that farmers, para makapag-farm, even just smallholder farmers yung like meron lang bakuran, yung like meron lang maybe 1 hectare, malaki na nga yung 1 hectare small farm lang. They need capital to buy those crops, to buy the fertilizers. They need initial money. Pero wala sila nun. Plantitos, hindi naman parang garden, yung medyo malaki-laki naman ng onte. So the solution is, this is actually very exciting, and this actually came from a technopreneurship class in UP Diliman. So nag-start ang idea na to sa isang technopreneurship class. It's a real story. I've also interviewed them sa podcast. If you want to know their story, you can go to our YouTube or Spotify channel to hear their story. It started from a class, and then they developed it, and like now I think 5 or 6 years na sila in the industry, and they're still doing it. They're still doing farmers. So people can lend money or invest on farmers online. So they have a website, I think it's cropital.com. So you can actually lend money with 7 to 10% interest per year. And you can do it online. So dalawang problem yung solve ito actually. First, yung farmers nagkakaroon ng capital kasi people lend them money. Second, yung people, yung mga tao, tayo, or ako, na gustong, actually I also invest on them, na gustong mag-invest, gustong mag-grow ng money, ay merong dagdag na investment platform, merong dagdag na investment opportunity. So, two-way actually na-solve nila problem. For the founder, nung nasa college siya, he's actually 1 batch lower than me sa UP Diliman. His family is also a smallholder farmer in Bulacan, I think. So meron din siyang parang background sa farming. And he took technopreneurship in UP Diliman, and doon nagsimula yung idea to start this startup, to start this company. And actually now, he told me they're trying to build intelligent credit models. Kasi ayun nga, hindi naman lahat ng farmers sa buong Pilipinas pare-parehas. Magkakaiba yan. Ano yung mga pinagkakaiba? First, weather. Napakalaking factor ng weather. Second, yung lugar. Yung lugar mismo. May mga farmlands na plains, may mga farmlands na medyo nasa bundok. Third, yung crops, 'di ba? I mean, iba-iba sila ng tinatanim, iba-iba sila ng mga favorites na tinatanim. Fourth, yung tao mismo. So maraming factors and they try to factor all of those para ma-determine sino ba yung mga farmers na mas mataas yung chance na magbayad on time, or basically sino yung mga farmers na least risk when pag magpapautang yung mga tao. Kasi syempre they also need to manage yung yung financial risk dun sa mga investors, dun sa mga tao, like yung sa mga interested mag-invest sa kanila. And by the way, yung lowest na pwedeng i-invest sa kanila ay parang 5,000 pesos. So you can invest as low as 5,000 pesos. You help the farmer and you can also gain interest from that money that you've lent. So ang ng business model, how to sustain the startup, parang profit share siya. So yung farmer, pag may capital na, pag nabenta na yung mga crops, yung from the profits, may take siya na part yung Cropital, and then yung part is a farmer, and then yung part ay babalik doon sa may nag-lend doon sa investor. And then their vision is basically just for our Philippine farmers to earn as much as they deserve. Kasi sila yung gumagawa ng mga pagkain. Kung wala sila, wala tayong kakainin basically. So dapat silang magkaroon talaga ng as much opportunities as they can, as they should have. So dapat actually ma-value yung kanilang work, and dapat mapunta yung pera sa kanila. So with Cropital is actually what you can consider a tech social enterprise. So they use technology to solve a real problem in society. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's actually my talk. So it's very short. It's brief lang. So basically we've talked about how technopreneurs solve actual problems in the Philippines in various fields: edutech, health tech, agritech, and actually marami pa iba examples. If you want to know the other examples, advertise natin ulit. Wag na. Tama na. So I just have to end this talk with a question. So do you want to use technology to solve a problem of society? If yes, be a startup founder now. It's one of the career paths, or it's one of the, actually it's booming now in the Philippines. Maraming investors and maraming tutulong sa'yo. Maraming mga incubators or yung mga communities to help you start out your own startup. So if you're interested really in solving a problem of society, I encourage you even to be a startup founder. And yeah, so that's all for my talk. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. So last advertisement, if you want to know more about startups in the Philippines, we're now on episode 41, and every week kami nag-i-interview ng bagong startups. Yeah, so visit our YouTube, Spotify, and even on Facebook. So maraming salamat sa pakikinig.